Okay, good afternoon. Let's get started. Um, please use the little chat bubble down here to the left of your purple X of your Collaborate panel if you have questions or have something to share. This is describing the need as part 2 of our case statement workshops. We're presenting in this month, of course, February, Snow workshop. This month is a need statement. Next month will be about describing impact. So I'm with Sanford Institute of Philanthropy. My name is Angela Beard, and Sanford is based at City University of Seattle. But our mission, as you can see, is to strengthen the nonprofit sector by increasing fundraising capabilities. So I have the good fortune in my work to be able to offer to the fundraising community free and low-cost workshops on subjects of interest. Sanford's curriculum is built around the donor relationship cycle, which most of you who are in fundraising are probably quite familiar with. It's an 8-part cycle that goes over 3 phases, and it's fundamentally about having good relationships with your donors. A little bit about me. I came to City last July. I've been in the nonprofit sector for some time, for about 20 years or more, actually. And I've been teaching since I was in grad school. However, full-time or as an adjunct since 2013, when I started working at Seattle U teaching fundraising, and then went full-time teaching financial management and fundraising. After a long career fundraiser myself, I work mostly in the arts of fundraising and as a director. And I've done a little bit of publishing and a little bit of graduate work. So let's just dive right in. As I told you, I teach. So when I do teach fundraising, I find need statement is one of the most. You can't read the slides. Okay. So do you have a bunch of little squares on the screen? Let's stop this. There we go. Is that the need statement slide in front of y'all? Need statement, statement of problem or need facing your organization. It's there? Okay. Whew. I guess I'll have to get the connection better next time. I apologize again. Hi, Diane. All right, so let's carry on. Need statement is the problem of need or problem. Statement of the need or problem facing those your organization tends to serve. So this is when I teach this class. I teach grant writing at every community. This is the part that the students struggle the most, and it's mostly because they have such a hard time disentangling themselves and the organization's work and problem they're trying to solve. So spelling out exactly what it is not. First of all, it is not the proposed solution. It's so tempting. We're excited about a project. We're passionate about our organization's mission to launch right into what we do to solve it. But we need to show the funder the extent of the problem before we can talk about our proposed solution, okay? And the second thing that it is not is the organization's needs. That it focuses on the community. So we'll see in a few minutes a couple of examples of are they need statements or not. And if you find yourself talking about what we, pay attention to the word we, need, and not what our clients need, the community needs, etc., look up and ask yourself, what am I describing? Our problems or the community's problems that we're trying to solve, okay? And the third thing is your opinion or passionate concern unsupported by evidence. I find this so often that students or grant writers or fundraisers want to say, this is the most important problem facing our society today. Well, that may well be true. But, you know, guess what? There's a lot of problems facing our society today. And I made my students, hunger and homelessness are one of my top, I don't know, passion, concerns, things I care about in the community. And so one day I made the class describe for me which were more the need for addressing childhood hunger or the need for addressing childhood cancer. And they all looked at me like I was insane. And I said, all right, you may think, you're coming at it from the hunger perspective. You may think when you work at a hunger organization that is the most problem facing anyone today, and it may very well be. However, your funder's going to have a stack of applications on their desk, or brochures, or letters, or whatever you end up using your case statement language for, and you have to commit your problem is urgent and deserves their support right now. That's called universalizing your passion, and you have to substantiate your claims. So we're going to talk about this, okay? So far so good. Looks like everybody's seeing the slides. Yay. So moving on. Okay, we're going to try a poll. Statement number 1. Is this a need statement or not? Our nonprofit needs a new administrative space. Our desks are broken down. The kitchen roof is leaking. We need a grant to get the facility fixed. Need statement or not? Yes or no? All right, the answers are putting in. And most of you think this is not a need statement. Anybody care to pop in that box and tell me why? Obviously, if you're working in a place with bad furniture and leaking roof, you can't do your work, correct? What's the problem? Bingo. Gwendolyn has it. It's a need of the organization, not the community you serve. Now, you may very well translate this into, because our desks are broken down and the kitchen roof is leaking, the staff is not able to serve the community at, yes, that's also true, Lisa. Our staff is not able to serve the community at full capacity, and as a result, many clients are not getting served. That in itself, needing a new facility for your nonprofit is not a valid, is not an appropriate need, is the best way to put it. Okay, how about number 2? The state funding for mental health has been cut by more than 50%. Consequently, many people with psychiatric issues are sleeping on the streets. Funding is needed to get them off the dangerous and health welfare conditions in the streets and into the shelter. What do you think? Need statement, yes or no? Don't be shy, people. It's anonymous. Right. So far, running 1,000% for yes, it is a need statement, and you are correct. That is a need statement because it talks about the people sleeping on the streets and what needs to have that need to be met. All right, so let's go for number 3. This one is tough, and this is what I ran into quite a few times in working with experts, right? This program in childhood education, I gotta move this box, is the only one in the region with expertise to implement, so we need funding to pay competitive salaries that are possible. What do we think? Need statement, yes or no? Okay, yes, you are correct, Gwendolyn, and Fremont Arts Council, hi, is about the solution. And also it slightly tends towards being about the organization's problem, right? It's true that we want to be able to hire experts. We want to be able to pay them a living wage. But that's kind of the organization's quotation marks problem, not what's going on in the community. What's going on in the community is some kind of problem with education. It's lacking somewhere, there's a need for additional services, etc. All right. So what are the elements of the need statement? You're right, Cynthia. It doesn't say what's important as well. First of all, we want to use supporting evidence to describe clearly the nature and extent of the need or the problem facing those you plan to serve. So when I approach writing these, I had these questions in mind, and I've even found more when I did some research for this presentation. So I started out with saying, what is the problem? Who says it's a problem? When I went to grad school, we were led by a wonderful gentleman who, at every turn, could confront us with, but who cared? You know, we would say, well, kids going hungry, well, who cares? And he didn't mean it in the sense that nobody cares about hungry children. What he meant is you have to convince it it's a problem as part of your writing in order to capture my attention and get funding. So who says it's a problem besides the nonprofit seeking funding? And what are the effects in the community or population? What is supporting evidence? We say here, use supporting evidence. First of all, of course, statistical evidence, the numbers. What is the incidence? Who is this affecting? What's happening? How many people are affected? What are they like? What are their ages? What are their income status? Their race? What is the important feature that's all addressed by our program? Testimonial evidence, a quote from authority. So if I went to the head of the U.S. USDA, who oversees feeding programs, and said, "Is childhood hunger a problem?" A quote from that person would be important, or how to a need statement. Anecdotal evidence is the one that everyone kind of wants to use, but it has to be combined with one of the other two. These are your expertise staff member or the stories of your clients. And then moving on, we have analogical evidence, which is for under research topics, and that's where we can find a similar problem in another community and say, we know that childhood hunger in Portland, Oregon has these effects. Because of the similar to Seattle, this is how we anticipate or observe the impact in our community. So any number of these 4 pieces of evidence can be used in your need statement, right? Next one, here's an example. Childhood hunger in summer months, which is particularly fine. Here's the extent of it. This is for the state of Washington. Nearly 18% of children under the age of 18 live in food insecure households at all times. 1 out of 6, or nearly 290,000 children, are food insecure. Obviously, I bullet point to the presentation, but then I would go on to talk about the feeding programs through the schools in the school year and how many children they feed. But in the summertime, only 11% of those kids, so if you're doing rough numbers, 11% of 290,000 is 30,000 kids, have access to free meals during the summertime. And what happens when kids go hungry? Well, they have higher chance of hospitalization, there are higher health costs, their parents miss more work, and there's a source for that. Not that you would ever, that you might need that for your need statement, but you have to show we got it from somewhere in the application, right? Or your case statement. Eliminates factors contributing to the problem or circumstance in the need. Okay, so again, this is where people could go down a rabbit hole. Why is there a problem? What is causing it, and who says so? Why is there childhood hunger? Here's the rabbit hole. Poverty. Poverty is, of course, the largest single contributing factor to childhood hunger. And for most organizations, they aren't asserting that their program or their mission is to eliminate poverty. Their program, they might want, in their vision, want to see a poverty-free world, but if we're talking about a childhood program, it's going to go down a rabbit hole saying our childhood feeding program is going to eliminate poverty. That's not exactly true. At the end, again, this but the 2 important factors here are that there's no money to buy food in low-income communities, or there's no access to healthy food. Okay, in the summertime, the programs are too far, or people don't know about them, or there are limited resources. So those are the problems we're trying to solve: the lack of money and the access to healthy food. If we make a claim that we're going to try and solve poverty, well, we've bitten off a pretty chunk, and when it comes time to evaluate the programs, we may have made some headway in disciplining the effects of poverty, but poverty itself, it's unlikely. Okay, so keep that in mind. 3 identifies current gaps in service programs. Again, this is imaginary. What services, if any, exist and why are they deficient? So, in the state of Washington and in Kane County, where many of us are, there are several options for summertime feeding programs. The city of Seattle runs one, King County runs, West Harvest, and United Way are some examples. For the fictitious feeding program that I'm creating for this discussion, I looked around at Skycomish, which is up in the northeast part of King County, does not have a childhood summertime feeding program. The closest one is in Issaquah, which is 36 miles away. So coming back to last slide and the causes of contributing factors, it's lack of access we're trying to solve, right? It's hard to get 30 miles. Your parents might be working, who knows if transit's available, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the problem. The problem is lack of access. And the first part of your needs, which isn't always appropriate because you may be creating a brand new program, but if it is appropriate, you can provide a rationale for a best practices in another location to populace that you're looking to serve. So if I were, how is the problem being successfully addressed in other communities, or what does literature say work? In my Skycomish example, I would look at the state, county, United Way programs that are run in similar communities. There was one in Korean, for example, I could use, and I would describe it. But then I would add, if you're in this Monday, Friday at this location, there are churches that are used, there are schools that are used, etc. They feed kids from 11 to 3, and there are no qualification that, no one checks any ID or anything like that. But because in Skype, the closest one is 36 miles away, it's in Skype to go hungry during the summer. However, we feel we could replicate his approach in the Skycombs community successfully. Here's some examples. So, taken straight from the web. So a needs statement that did not approve, here we go. Many of the children we will be serving come from families with lower income. Daycares we are partnering with serve mainly lower income kids. As partnering with them, the kids with access to books wouldn't usually be able to have contact with. Okay, what's the problem here? What do y'all think is, why don't you think this needs statement got funded? What kind of evidence do we have here? Think of the 4 options. Diane, if you want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to speak, or you can put up a chat there. Louisa, you're right, no supporting evidence. And did you make a comment, or Cynthia's typing something? What is the problem? Exactly, it doesn't really say. There's some hints. Lower income is often an indication of struggles. Kids wouldn't usually be in contact with books. Okay, there's a hint, but it doesn't come right out and say it. So let's look at how they revised it. After speaking with our local elementary school, so there's an authority, right? We have learned that during the 12-13 school year, over 87% of their students qualify for free reduced meal rate. So that sets up the low income data. As far as reading scores, 45.3% of kindergarten reached the benchmark for the Idaho Reading Indicator. Nearly 60% and 39% of second graders. I don't know a lot about reading benchmarks in Idaho, but this doesn't sound like it's good news, right? We believe that if more of our kids have access to books, we will take them home and read their reading ways. Many of these kids now come from families who are able to go out and purchase books, so there's another problem, right? So it's up to from kids with books. It still use a little bit of work, but they did fund this one, and who sees improvement? I see that they're talking more about their population, they're supplying books, that's the solution. I would personally like to see, well, okay, this percentage of kids don't read, again, yeah, what's the problem? Does that result in low grades, result in found longitudinal evidence that eventually they don't graduate, or they get into trouble later in life, or whatever that may be. Cynthia, I'd like to see some evidence of how having books at home results in more reading. I would too, and also that would be, I hope, part of their solution, the description of their solution, right? Okay. So I would love for each of you to think of a program or an organization in general that you would like to write a needs statement for, and I give this exercise to my students. So let's take a minute. The problem my project organization is trying to solve is one sentence only in the chat box. Let's see what you have for me. What is the problem my project or organization is trying to solve? I limit it to one sentence in this exercise because I want people to start small. Otherwise, again, people new to this tend to take on too much. They start by saying, back to my goal, I'm trying to solve childhood hunger, which is caused by poverty, which is caused by systematic racism. And you know it, they've taken on the entire world of social injustice, which is admirable, but when you got to stay focused for your case statement, might not be the best use of your time. So let's see your sentences. All of the comments will be saved along with the recording and the slides. So when I send the link out to you, if you want to go back and see what we had to say, you'll be able to. And that is the problem. People go into the bathroom in public spaces and upon business properties. Fremont is trying to reach new ways to reach out to new donors for fundraising. Fremont, is that your problem or is that your proposed solution? I would put to you that your problem might be that your current ways of fundraising are not generating enough revenue. So your problem is a lack of revenue or what's the way without being critical, a need for your fundraising isn't working. I say that without sounding critical. Because your attempts to raise money in new ways is going to be your solution. Okay, so lack of resources to help teenagers manage these challenges. I call on people because I want y'all to be the best, just so you know. I don't mean to be personal or anything. The qualified pilots are dramatically decreasing as current pilots are aging out of the workforce. So both Louisa and Cynthia, your sentences, the second half is your problem. Okay, the current pilot aging out of the workforce. Teenagers do not have the resources to manage emotional struggles and stress. There's your problem. Okay, so with that in mind, what is your problem caused by? You have three options, and again, just short blurbs because we want to focus on the problem at hand. Diane, what causes people to go to the bathroom in public spaces? Donor fatigue, okay. Lack of accessible public restrooms. Lack of mental health resources at adolescents, which Cynthia, I would suspect, always comes back to funding, right? Or does this, okay, is it a question of public programs not being available, or a question of these issues occurring in families that don't have the resources to get treatment for their kids? Lack of fundraising staffing, okay. The restrooms are closed, vandalism, okay. Lack of money being directed and lack of programs to adolescents. All right, so your monster screen with some causes. What are the costs of the community? What happens in the community if this problem persists? Again, you get 3 options. And of course, we're doing this all in a, an academic sense, if you will. So know that when you go and write your case statement, the bullets that you're shooting out right now, it'll be to go and find other evidence to back them up. Like Diana, you're absolutely right. The public restroom being permanently closed due to vandalism is a problem. Is there any way to substantiate that? You've seen it because you work there. Is it in front of the city council? Is it in front of the mayor? I'm thinking out loud a little bit to show you how strengthened that, in addition to you knowing what's going on with other evidence. And you're absolutely correct. What is your problem? That sounds so bad. What is your problem? Cynthia, kid. Adolescent suicide or attempted suicide, substance abuse, high school dropout rates. So Fremont, I'm picking on you a little, great affection, and saying if the fundraising problem persists, the organization's financial state will decline. That's true. Who suffers because of that? Let's see, really can say yes, your staff might have jobs, but if you all go away, that's the cost of the community that you want to talk about. Who suffers? I know that you guys put on a couple events a year. I'm sure you serve a lot of people. Those are the ones, that's where the cost is going to be. After the cleanup, business experiences. Yes. Overall, didn't you feel a lack of desire for return by consumers or perception of an uncaring or unsafe environment? Was this helpful? I hope it is. This kind of gets to the nut of the need statement and the things that you have to think about when you're preparing to write it. Okay? So, like I said, this will come to you if it's helpful for you when you are coming back to this in your writing. By all means, tear it up. I hope it will be useful. Okay. There you go. Okay, Fremont. Yes. So no workshops in the community means who loses out? Your artists, people who attend your jobs, obviously. Thoughts on that one? Okay. So some helpful hints. Again, make sure the problem you describe aligns with the solution you are proposing. I come back to my poverty example. When kids go hungry, certainly poverty is a problem. But as admirable as a proposed feeding program, and it's fictitious on my part, it is not going to solve poverty. It will solve lack of access in a community that does not have a program in their community. Lack of access is the problem that is caused by poverty. Okay? Is that clear to everybody? That's where people really get stuck when I teach this. So I just want to be sure. And not with me. Okay, awesome. So, and I've also found that if an organization or if even the word organization is in a need statement, you're heading towards discussing the solution, not the problem. Okay? So people want to say right away, like we did at top, you know, the Chihuahua, I have 2 Chihuahuas, is going to start a summer feeding program to address this issue. And they tell you all about their summer feeding program. Well, that is not the need. That is the solution. And you get the chance about that, or you have, we learned about last month. When we talk about why your organization deserves to be funded, and what sets your program aside. Any questions about these helpful hints? Okay, I've come up with some resources for y'all. This is really good. It's actually paper. It goes through the needs statement section by section and helps you to figure out how to write one yourself. Builds on what we've talked about here. And we have a few others that I can add to it about common mistakes in the needs statement. And also data sources that might be helpful to people working in human services and education. Now we have Q&A time. Bring me your questions. What's happening with your own needs statements? What difficulties you're experiencing out there? You can either into the... Sure. Well, let's see. I have to go over to monitor. Excuse me. There's that. Louisa, if you're an organization that has several focuses, really requires several statements. I know you're like, oh, really? But I would write one for each of your, because I'm assuming the focus has a program that goes along with it. I would write one for each of your main programs. One for education and one for preservation. Is that helpful? Are you the museum world or heritage of some kind? Exactly. Yeah. This is a general case statement writing workshop. But what we talked about last time said often you have to have more than one. A general one, if you're just talking about organization, or a several for each program if you have several like that. And a capital campaign case statement is yet another one that's important to know about. Okay, I've got one other link here for y'all. This is the one. There you go. These are the common errors. So this one, there's 5 common errors made in a needs statement. Go ahead and have a look at that if you'd like. And here's another good article on writing your goals and objectives for a statement in a way that matches it up with what you've talked about as your problem. So I will paste that into. All right, more questions. Cynthia. You know, Cynthia, the questions are for how many sentences or paragraphs in your statement should be. There aren't. And I actually, you saw the 2 articles we had a little bit earlier about one that was written and not funded, and then the other that was a little bit longer and was funded. In my opinion and my experience, those were extremely short. I found short ones so I could get them on a PowerPoint slide. But in general, needs statement will take at least, in my opinion, 3 paragraphs, one for each of the areas: the incidents, the impact, and the effects on the community. And in some proposals, it goes on several pages, especially medical or something like that. There's some great samples online, especially at GrantSpace, which is grantspace.org. Second. And the University of Wood, their Marshall School has some great ones. Like I said, I would say paragraphs at least. All about the problem. And anyone else? Linda, I saw you were typing, but sometimes it doesn't pop up quickly for me. A balance between discussing how research or findings on the problem versus your own community if you don't have statistics or data. I would use high-level findings in a community that's as similar to yours as possible. And obviously it's going to depend on what type of issue you're addressing, but census data is great for that. Say you were looking at a small rural community with a certain population, and you know that there's a high immigrant proportion. Well, you also probably know small rural communities in your state. You might look at your own and another where the solution is being implemented in a community that's similar in census statistics, and say, because the Chihuahua town is in this program, is working for their organization, for their population, their community. Sorry, I'm trying to read the question and talk it all at the same time. We have a similar population, a similar community, and our field workers, this is again where you can come up with the anecdotes, have seen that we deal with the same kind of issues in our community as Chihuahua Town does with theirs. It's obviously going to be approaching a funder, Cynthia, that for that kind that is open to startup or seed money and has, doesn't have as high a requirement for that kind of track record as another funder might. So I would just make sure that your data and your comparison is as close as possible to your own community. That's helpful. Linda, arts organization, and oh my goodness, I worked for them for years, which is why I got used to writing about this, and it's very difficult. A positive way to frame the statement experience, you can, first of all, this sounds really backwards, you can turn it into a negative. And that's saying that, arts and education programs have shown that they improve grades, they improve ability, they improve math ability in community X or for our own data, whatever it ends up being. The thing with arts is that so much of it is public benefit that is not paid for directly to the consumer. It's something that everyone in the public benefits from. So you can make the case somewhat laboriously. If a child goes through arts education either through an outreach program or by direction, that their education is going to improve, they're going to become better citizens, everyone in the community is going to benefit. If you're talking about presenting or producing organizations, it's a little bit tougher. Right now the state of funding is such that people still do want data, and it's hard to produce data on the internal change that happens when someone's in a theater and watches a play or goes to an exhibit or that kind of thing. So we kind of tend to rely on economic and say this improves the quality of life in our community and makes it more attractive to employers, and there's a multiplier when people go to the arts and they go to a restaurant, they hire a babysitter, and they pay for parking and all that kind of thing. Capturing the intangible change that our arts organizations are aiming for, we want to inspire people, we want to educate, we want to, we want them to experience the fact that, in my opinion and strong belief, art reflects life. But it's sort of stopping every patron and serve them on their way out. Did this change your thinking about something? Do you feel differently about an issue? Do you feel better? Are you happy? Are you inspired? That is really, really hard to measure. So at the moment, it's falling back on how the arts improve the quality of life in the community. Is that helpful? You can take, I was sometimes able to take a specific artist or a specific creator of art, a composer, and say, there's been all the evidence listening to art improves your brain pathways. Well, okay, if you're going to present a Mozart ballet or a Mozart piece on your symphony bill, you can bring that in. But it's a tough one. Is that helpful? You can say no. Then I'll continue to noodle it with you. Okay. Let me look through some of my old art stuff, Linda, and see if I have some to send you, because this was a really tough one, and I amassed quite a bit of research and journal articles, etc., about the impact of the arts. And when I don't know what kind of arts you work for, but there's also a very direct link between participating in art and improving cancer patient outcomes. depression in cancer patient and also other healthcare, art therapy, and that kind of. So that's another avenue you might want to consider. Without this intervention, survival rates are going to be worse, and people are going to be stressed and not experience as effective health outcomes. So, depending on what solution you're trying to propose, think about it in that way. Revitalization, he suggests. Yes, absolutely. Look at, Tacoma has a very vibrant arts core in their downtown that was intentionally put in to improve the quality of life again, to bring people downtown, them spending money, get Tacoma a reputation as an art center. So you might be able to find statistics from their work or work similar to it. Ashland, Ashland relies heavily on Oregon Shakespeare Festival. It impacts the entire town in a very positive way. And you could look at some of their work perhaps and see what they say. Oh, I couldn't agree more, Fremont. Sorry to call you Fremont, I don't see your name there. But involving homeless and marginalized people in art is becoming quite prevalent right now, which is fabulous in my opinion. And it's improved our quality of life. So there could be crossover in your needs if you're a service station wanting to engage your clients in art, or an arts organization wanting to engage human service clients in your work. Other questions? All right, well, we're going to finish up a little early. I will be sending out the recording to you all with slides, again, the notes that we have here on the side of the discussion, resource slides, and my contact information. Like I said at the beginning, my fortunate and wonderful job is to help nonprofits raise money. So you should feel free to call on me if you want to bounce ideas off, if you have a question about work, if I can help you in any way. And I'll be so. Email, call, anything you like. Session is in April. It's the 23rd of April, and that will be impact. So again, noon to 1, so potentially over the lunch hour. We'll talk about, it's going to be titled something, what's in it for the donor, because he wants to see community impact. They give you money to make change in the key. So that'll be the purpose of that session, April 23rd. And I sent out the information shortly, and I hope you will join us. This was helpful. Thank you guys for the kind words. And we'll see you in April.